All right, welcome everybody. Today is Monday, January 18th, Martin Luther King Day in 2021. And this is the 14th class in the Buddhist Neigong series. In last class, we introduced the microcosmic orbit or the small circulation practice. And then today, the hope is we'll get to the macrocosmic orbit or the grand circulation practice. But before we leap into whatever new stuff, let's see if there are any questions on the microcosmic orbit practice. And Ankin, please.
Yeah, I know last week we did the one and we were calling it the fire path. Um, are we mentally connecting that to like fire attributes? Like, is that an energizing thing or is that false equivalency?
Yeah, I wouldn't associate it to the elements per se. I mean, there are elemental components to the different meridians and channels and stuff like that, but it's beyond the scope of my expertise and the content of the class, really. I would refer people, if you just look at, 5-element Chinese medicine, you just Google search that. There's a great book, I think it's called Wood Becomes Water, if I remember right. That's more like about Chinese medical perspectives, okay, which is obviously overlaps immensely. Again, originally all these things aren't in separate categories of martial art and meditation and medicine, and these are all just kind of together. But anyway, the quicker answer is to say, no, don't be meditating on fire per se, or water, or any of the other elements as you do these. It is known as a fire path, though. It's definitely a yanizing feature. But the main function of the microcosmic orbit is to fill the governing and the conception vessels with chi, and to get the chi stronger there and to get it flowing there, right? So it's not a static thing, but it's a flow. And you want more water in the river is the idea, and it's flowing more strongly. So yeah, I would just concentrate on leading the chi that way. Okay, it is an interesting technique that you can do, though, that you can visualize, like if you bring the chi in as light and you gather it to the lower Dan Chen and make it like a dot of light or a bead of light, like a golf ball or an egg size, something like that, or a little smaller, like a marble, and you concentrate on that and you move that dot through the body as part of the visualization. It's not so much fire meditation, it's just visualizing the chi as light. And then it helps some people who are visually oriented to kind of feel the body. You want to make sure that you maintain the feeling, though, and don't just go into visualization in your imagination. You want to actually use the visualization of the light as a way to feel the body. And then you take that light and just kind of move it through the channels, and then you're doing it. Okay. Does that help, Ankin?
Yes, thanks.
I will say there are other meditations to be done that are very interesting, which are getting in touch with the different elements. And that's a valid and valuable exercise. It's not what I want to get into right now. We might at some other moment in this class if there's interest. But there are meditations on, for example, metal and connecting with the energy of metal and what it is and what its qualities are. Connecting with earth, water, fire, and wind, right? And basically the qualities of these and kind of tuning into them and how they resonate in the body. It's a very interesting thing to do. And there are movement sets associated with them and so on. And traditional Chinese medicine says that yin and yang becomes these 5 elements, and that the health and dis-ease of the body has to do with these 5 elements being in correct balance and flow. And so if there's, for example, too much fire energy in the heart, let's say, then you're ill-tempered, you're aggravated all the time, or you're agitated and you can't settle down. And so, a water meditation practice might do something to counteract that, like this. So it is a topic of worthy of investigation, but not exactly what we're doing today. All right. Anybody else with a question on the microcosmic orbit? Could you connect with it? I mean, could you actually like relate to the material in any kind of way? So on, I saw a head nod there.
Yeah. The more I practiced it, I could actually feel sensations in the here. What
Yeah.
is this? The Wedon or the third eye? What is that called? That thing. But could actually feel sensation. Not all the time, but once in a while it would arise as a sensation.
Yeah. What can you describe the sensation in there?
Like I was touching from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Like you touch with your finger, your head, like if I was inside my head and touching there.
So like a pressure?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just remember, you want to make sure that you keep the thing circulating, and then all is well. You know, sometimes people will report, like sometimes it can feel like tingly. Sometimes it can feel like the very beginnings of a sneeze. You know, when you feel that tickle in the nasal passages and a sneeze is 5% coming. When you first become aware that I think I might be sneezing, there's that little tickle feeling. There's something like that that can actually start to happen inside. And all of these, and some people feel them as very electrical, different stuff, you know what I mean? But remember, the main point is not to steer into some pleasurable sensation in the brain. It's to get the things to flow through, okay? And incidentally, you might end up feeling and sensing your body in ways that you hadn't before. It's possible to actually tune into your liver functioning. It's possible to feel your kidneys at work. It's possible to connect with your intestines doing their thing. It is possible to not feel in the sense of nerve endings like this, but you can sense, you can connect with the organs in the body, the muscles, the tissues, and the brain. All right, anybody else? Kaishan, yeah.
So so there are the two orbits that we did in the microcosmic. We did the fire and the water, basically mostly like it's a directional difference. And one of the things that kind of struck me was, I guess I was expecting that over the course of the week, that the different orbits would feel different in character to me.
Can you say more about what you mean by different orbits? I'm not sure I'm following you.
So you took us through, I want to make sure I use the right name for the right thing. So when we were talking about the idea of we could do the fire path, so down the back and up the front, staying on the outside of the spine.
Okay, a little confusion there. So the main thing that you want to do in microcosmic orbit is go up the back, around the front, or around the head rather, and then down the front. Okay, so it's always going this way, up the back, here, and then down. There do exist other pathways. There's a wind path, there's a water path. I may have pointed them out to you. They're interesting to know. You know, one goes up through the center of the spine and comes down lower in the brain and down a little further. One comes up in the back like we do, and one is basically the fire path in inversion, where you come up the front and down the back. Ultimately, they're all good, but microcosmic orbit specifically, the main big gun thing that you do is from the tailbone, really, up the back of the spine, between the spine and the skin, around between the skin and the skull, and then down the front, and just keep looping around that way. Okay, does that make more sense?
Yes.
Yeah, you can move the chi in any of these various ways. And there's different causes and reasons to at different times, but the main general one is what we did. So given that, does the question still stand? Is your question over, or I mean, is there more in there?
Well, just that I was expecting that the taking the circulation in different directions over the course of a week of practice or so, would
Mhm.
start to kind of energetically might feel different, but I didn't feel that I could really, note that this is clearly something different when I was going one way versus the other.
Yeah, I get you. What I would say is don't spend a lot of time doing the other options right now. Stick with the basic fire path up the back, around, down the front, and just play in that key and get that one really rocking. That is the main thing. And you know what? After a while, when you've got that one going on, you'll be able to sense stuff differently. But for now, and probably for quite some time, that's the one thing. I don't do the other paths very much, if at all. There's just not. It's kind of interesting to note that they exist, but they're not like my main course. Okay. The other thing to say is you don't want to go searching for feelings. Not that I'm hearing you say that, but it's important to just focus on the concentration, and that's enough. If you put your mind there, then the chi will accrue, and then the body happens last. And so if you basically move your mind through your structure slowly with a lot of intent, the chi follows along there. And you don't always have sensation of it. It's not like it's not as blatant as this sensation here when you can feel what's going on. Sometimes you get sensation, sometimes not, but either way, you let that go and just keep on the concentration. That's the main point. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice. All right, anybody else, or we're good to move on? Okay, so let's talk about macrocosmic orbit. All right. This is also termed grand circulation. Now, let's see, how do I say it? The two big vessels that we talked about, the governing and the conception, these are like the two big guns, back the spine and the front, okay? There are also vessels, and these things have names and terms and stuff. You can find them if you're interested. They're in Dr. Yang's Root of Chinese Qigong book. They're all over the place. But basically the concept is, once you've got this main circulation going, all right, then what you want to do is take and include the arms and the legs, the limbs. There are other vessels that inhabit these spaces. And what you want to do is take the circulation that you've got going here and get it to go through the arms and get it to go through the legs, thus filling the lesser vessels, I'll call them, the additional vessels of the body, channels, meridian lines of the body, filling those with chi and getting the circulation to include them as well. Okay. So that's the purpose of it. Okay. In Neigong and Neigong training, internal training, what you do is you use the mind and you concentrate the chi internally, and then it comes out to the limbs. In Waidan, you're using the limbs and building the chi there and then bringing it inside to the organs. And that's what we'll see as we go into Bodhidharma's Waidan set, probably next week, given the way this conversation is going, but we'll see. For now, though, the Neigong training of grand circulation, there's basically, you can do it as two different meditations, or you can kind of link them together. If you do research on the subject, you'll find different, very credible and very together teachers explain this in very different ways. Some teachers are very specific about, you want to send the chi down this exact line in the body and then bring it up along another line in the body. And some teachers say, don't concentrate too much on that, just focus on the end point and allow it to circulate. And I'll give you some examples of both, and you can play around with it and see what works for you. Okay. But when you do the grand circulation meditation practice, let's start with the arms. Is that true? No, we'll start with the legs. The legs are actually easier to do. The meridian lines, the vessels in the legs usually are, believe it or not, more accessible. So I'll have to stand up for this, I guess. So what you're going to do here Let's see if I can get this to work. All right, so the big plan here, let me move this chair out of the way. Okay, all right, so the big idea here is you're going to do the small microcosmic orbit once. Okay, now again, I'm assuming you've got your standing posture down, you've done 5 gates breathing, you've brought the chi into lower danchen, it's there, and now you begin to circulate it through. You run it up the back of the spine, up down to the front, as we said. Now, what you're going to do then is you brought it one circulation through. And again, I think it's helpful to visualize like a candle flame. Okay, and what you're doing is you're taking that candle flame and moving it through the body. And if you visualize and see it that way, it'll help you stay focused on what you're doing. And now we're going to include the lower limbs and all the vessels therein. And one way to do this is you bring it down the front, and then you come in between where the perineum is. And from there, what you do is you have it come down the front of the legs, and it splits. Okay, the candle flame becomes 2 candle flames. Down here, it goes down the front of the legs, and it's like in the same way that you go between the spine and the skin on the back. You go just on the surface of the bones. And you kind of come up the pelvis, go down the legs, and you go all the way down to under the top of the feet. And then underneath the foot, you bring the light around here to, it's called the Huayan point, but it's, I can show you this, I don't know if you can see it, but it's right here underneath the ball of the foot. It's it's here. On the woolly slipper, it's right about there, okay? The ball of the foot is here, it's just below it, okay? So like the heel, there's the bone and you can push underneath the ball of the foot, and just underneath the ball of the foot below it, that's the point that I'm talking about. It's called the bubbling well or what have you point. Yeah, it's the what have you point, that's what it is, a technical term. But anyway, you bring the light down to that point and hold it there, okay? So I've done the circulation here, and then it comes and goes down the front, comes over the top of the toes, and comes underneath and sits there. Do a cycle of the breath there, and then you bring it up the back of the legs. It comes up here and joins and comes up the tailbone and comes back up the normal way that you do it. And so you start the whole circulation now, it includes the legs, and you do that every time. Okay, you can do the microcosmic orbit once, and then bring the macrocosmic with the legs, do the microcosmic again, and then do the legs, or you can just like do the legs the whole time. It's totally fine. Okay, so let's try this one together. Everybody stand up if you can. You can also do this sitting, it's fine. It's a little easier to do standing, frankly. And I'll try to guide us through it. Okay. So just stand in your basic standing posture, right? You know, open up the bottoms of the feet, open the toes, let the floor come up, open up the ankles, open up the knees. Make sure your weight is correct, your pelvic tilt is correct, right? Feel your spine. Open up the box in the body, the points, right? And the shoulders nest. Make sure your elbows are out, opened, shoulders are opened, fingers are opened. All the neck is opened up all the way through up to the top of the head, and now gently scan down through the body, starting at that point about a foot or so above the skull, and gently scan down and let everything just ground and sink. And everything goes, if there's any difficulty, you sink it, drop it, bring it down to the floor, scan to the body so you're all the way down through the floor, about a foot below the feet, right? And then begin 5 gates breathing in through the palms, the feet, and the head, the skull, and the spine, drawing in. We'll do a contractive inhale, draw the chi to the hara, to the 1 point, and then release. And we're gathering chi at this point, bringing it into the hara. cultivating the chi in the 1 point. Drawing in through the legs, in through the arms, in through the skull. Bringing the chi and packing it into the hara. Exhaling. We'll do one more breath here. Packing the chi in the center and release. I lied, one more breath there, one more breath. Bring it in. Bring the chi into the hara and then release. So each time you do that, you're packing chi in the hara. Now, let's take that chi and run it through the microcosmic orbit. So imagine it as a candle flame of light beneath your belly button in the 1 point, a couple inches in. Bring it down the front of you, underneath the pelvic floor, and bring it up through the tailbone, up through the spine, inhaling. Draw it up through the low back, mid back, shoulder blades, neck. It's up on the top of the skull and the third eye. And then exhaling, comes down the front of the face, down the neck, down through the sternum, and it comes underneath. Let's do one more the same way. It sweeps up through the perineum, comes to the tailbone, inhaling up, low back, mid back, upper neck, upper neck, skull, top of the head, third eye, and then exhaling drops down, front of the body, sternum, chest, and to the perineum. Now take that flame and break it in two equal points and bring it to where the femurs connect to the pelvis and bring it down the front of the leg. So it's down the femurs, down the knees, down the ankles, and then right over the tops of the foot, comes over underneath the toes now, and those candle lights sit right at that bubbling well point underneath the foot. Do a full cycle of breath here. And then the next inhale, bring it up around the back of the foot and the heel. It comes up the back of the legs, up to the knees, up to the back of the femurs, into the pelvis, connects to the tailbone and up the spine, low, middle, high, neck, crown chakra, third eye, exhaling, falls down through the face, through the neck, sternum, chest, tummy, down to the pelvic area. And now again, the candlelight splits in two and goes down the front of the legs, top of the knees, spills over like water going down the front of your body, down to the ankles, around the tips of the toes and underneath, and hold it there at the Hua-Yin point. Breathing in, breathing out. You're concentrating on that part at the bottom of the foot and breathing to that point. It's like a magnet. It brings all the chi in the body there. One more breath here. Exhaling, now inhaling, bring the light to the back of the heel, up the back of the legs, up the back of the knee, back of the femurs, connecting up through the rump, into the tailbone, up along the spine. Comes up and around, low back, middle back, high back, neck, back of the skull, top of the skull, third eye. Exhaling, down the face, front of the neck, sternum, belly, and center, and bring it to the 1 point and just hold it there and release. Okay. All right, so come on back here. Now that's one version, okay, where you go down the front of the legs. There's another version where you come down the insides of the legs. So you do the same thing. I shouldn't have had us all sit down again, but I did. But you come here, and instead of going down the front of the legs, what you do is you come down the insides. Okay, they're like right along on the inside of the leg, like basically where the seam of my jeans is. Comes down here and comes around the bottom of the foot and centers at that same Hua-Yin point. And then after you've done it, you bring it up the side. and then it joins at the tailbone and cycles around. So the distinction in these two approaches is either going down the front of the legs and coming around the feet and up the back, or going down the insides of the legs, coming around to the point and up the outer part of the leg. Okay. There's yet another one where you just take the light and you go straight through the bones of the legs and you bring it to the same point on the bottom of the foot, the sole of the foot, hold it there and just bring it up again through the legs. Just like a writ large scan through the leg to the foot and then back up. And when it gets up to where the femur hits the pelvis, it goes together again and goes up the tailbone and cycles along. Okay. So you can see in each of these three different approaches, which are all cool. The theme is the same, basically. You get this circulation going, you get your posture right, you build some chi in the hara, then you cycle that chi through the microcosmic orbit a couple of times, and then you sling it down to the legs. Hold it at the bottom point for a couple of breaths, and then bring it up again and cycle it through, and then send it down to the legs and hold it. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So we're on a roll. Let's just keep going. Okay. The next one is where you do the arms. Now the arms, it's funny because we use them more, most people aren't typing with their toes all day. But for whatever reason, it's a little more challenging to connect with these meridians for some reason for a lot of people, not everybody, but the basic practice is very similar. You do the microcosmic orbit. You do it a couple of 2-3 times, make sure it's connected. A traditional number is 5, pick a number. I do it by feeling. And what you do is when you come up the back, you get to right where the shoulder blades are, and it splits in two. And again, the same kind of logic happens, okay? One approach is it splits in two along the back, along the shoulder blades. It comes along the scapula, comes up over the shoulder, and goes down the front of the arm, comes over the top of the fingers, and hovers right here at that equivalent point in the palm, the center point. And you concentrate on that part, 2-3 breaths, whatever. And then you come up the underneath of the arm, and it comes here through the chest and sternum and goes down. And you cycle it that way. So you come up the back, it splits, comes along the top of the arm, hold it here a couple of breaths, comes underneath, comes up again. They both meet here in the sternum and continue dropping down. I advise that you do the whole circuit orbit, including the skull, and then do an arm, and then do the skull, and then do the arm, and have it come back. So you're constantly including the head and then sending it out to the palms. As you can imagine, there's yet another variation of this where you come up, it comes to the shoulders in the back, and you bring it around the front, and it comes down the inside of the arm, and then huddles here for a while, and then comes down the outside of the arm. So you see there's top, bottom, and then there's these sides, okay? And again, there's the third way, which is my general go-to, which is go right through the whole arm, right from the center of the marrow of the bones, just all the way out. And you bring it to this point and hold it, and then draw it back in. I think there's value to all of those. And I think when you're checking this out, you should kind of play freely with all of them. I don't think that it's necessary to study the formal meridian lines. They get quite detailed, and it's quite interesting to see, but it gets very minutia. If you zoom down even a little more on this, you start finding there's specific lines and dots you want to connect, like the Big Dipper and stuff. And I think we get too mentally confused by that. We become too intellectual when we practice that way. And the fact is that the chi will just go exactly where it needs to. This needs to be simple. If you have to concentrate very much to do this, you're not doing it right. because you want to be out of this kind of intellection mind and a very simple way of feeling in the body. And that's what you do, okay? So let's try an arm one. You can do this sitting or standing. You can do this with your arms just at your side in your kind of normal kind of standing posture, or you can sit there with your arms down, or you can put your arms on your lap. Totally doesn't matter. You know, I'll do it standing just for consistency's sake, but you can easily do it sitting. In this basic standing posture that we use, I should have done this before. So, some bumper cars in here. All right. Okay. All right, so here, I'll just do the standing posture. So again, bring your mind back to the hara. Just do a couple of 5 gates, whole body breathing. Spring chi into the hara and hold it there. Every inhale. You can do this time, let's do expansive inhales, just so we cover the bases today. So breathing in, let the belly expand as you draw chi to it. Maybe do a slight external rotation and a classic Shin Kokyu movement from the Aikido. Exhaling. Expansive in the hara. Remember, when you do this, you're letting the chi stay there. You're packing the chi to the hara. Kind of like charging it first with your concentration. Again. Here we are. It's hard to do this when you're talking. Okay, so it's full. So let's do a regular microcosmic orbit. So again, draw it up to tailbone, low back, middle back, high back, neck, top of the skull, third eye, exhaling, down the face, down the neck, down the sternum, down the belly, down through the genitals, around again through the perineum, and inhaling up through the tailbone, low back, middle back, and it splits into 2 right at the shoulders and comes around the outside of the shoulders and comes around to the top of the shoulders and then goes down the front of the arms, down the bicep, down the elbow. It comes right around the top of the wrist and right over the middle finger and comes around the bottom of the middle finger into the center point of the palm. Hold it there, breathing in, out, concentrating in the palms, in, out. One more breath here, in, out, and then release, draw it down the bottom of the wrist, underneath the bottom of the elbow, biceps, comes under the arm, and then rolls around the front of the body, connects at the sternum and goes down, underneath the perineum, up the tailbone, low back, middle back, high back, neck, top, bottom of the skull, top of the skull, third eye, exhaling down the face, down the neck, down the sternum, down the belly, down the genitals, around through the perineum, up inhaling, tailbone, breathes up, low back, middle back, splits into 2. This time, bring it down the insides of the arms. The inside of the arm goes down the elbow, over the thumb, around into the center point. Hold it there 3 breaths. Inhaling 1. Inhaling 2. You can do this with your hands straight down at your sides. Inhaling 3. And then comes up the outside of the arms. Pinkies, wrist, low arm, elbow, outside of the upper arms. Connects around to the front of the chest, down the sternum, down the stomach, around the belly, genitals, perineum, tailbone, up, low back, middle back, high back, neck, low skull, top of the skull, third eye, exhaling, down the face, down the throat, sternum, chest, belly, genitals, perineum, inhaling up the tailbone, low back, middle back, and then shoulder blades. It splits into two, and this time we're going to go right down the center of the arms and just generally flush the whole arm all the way down from the elbows, shoulders, the biceps, the elbows, the forearms, the wrists, and let all the chi come to those points in the hands. Hold them, breathing in 1, out, breathing in 2, concentrating on the point of the palms, breathing in 3, and out. And let it come just up straight through the whole arm. The whole arm brings up, 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 forearms, elbows, biceps, shoulders, around the front of the body to the chest, sternum, chest, belly, genitals, perineum, tailbone, up the back, low, middle, high, neck, low head, top of the head, third eye, down, face, throat, sternum, belly, and down. And this time we'll include the legs, comes down through the genitals, the perineum, bring it to just the center of the bones in the legs, and wash it down through the femurs, knees, shins, ankles, foot, holds at the point at the bottom of the foot. Breathe 1, 2, 3. Inhaling now, bring it up the legs, knees, femurs, hip bones, connects, perineum, tailbone, back of the low back, middle back, high back, neck, top of the head, third eye, down the front, face, throat, sternum, chest, belly, genitals, perineum, and bring it up to the 1 point. Hold it there, and again, breathe in, expansive inhale, outward rotation of the arms. Again, 1 more time. Packing the chi in the hara. Last time. And relax. Now, when you've done this, close your eyes and just stand there. And just feel the chi circulate through the body exactly where it needs to go. You don't have to guide it or direct it at all at this point. Just relax and let the chi flow right where it needs to. Now let's do a little bit of a turning practice. Just take a little bit of a wider stance and just let your arms flop gently from side to side. There are a number of very important Qigong movements that are these kind of rotational or swing movements, I guess you could call them. This is one of them. It just helps to get things to cycle. Right. And when you do this, when you're here, open and then close, and then open and then close. So you're not actually just like rotating like this. You expand and contract, expand and contract. It should feel like the chi is kind of opening the body and the chi is kind of going out. And it comes back in, goes away and you gather it, away and you gather it. Yep. And then let your legs come together, bring it home to center a little bit, gradually settle down. Okay, now, sometimes you'll see you can do these movements using your hands. So for example, see if you can tell what I'm doing here. Watch, check it out. Can you see how I'm just kind of using my hands to show the same movement? This is Macrocosmic Orbit. Okay. If I do through the legs, it can look like this. I'll do Macrocosmic Orbit. and then legs, center, legs. So you start to see that a lot of the flowing movements that we have, if all you do is go like this with your hands, you're not doing anything. The hands are kind of helping you feel how you're bringing the chi through the body. See, so if I go like this now, so I'm bringing up the low back, middle back, high back, neck, top of the head, third eye, down the front. Comes again up, back. That comes out the sides of the arms, rolls forward, and then draws in again, down the front. You see like that? And you can just improvise this. You don't have to worry about, is your hand perfectly right or whatever. You're just kind of guiding the energy along like that. And if you do that, and then just watch a few clips of a good Tai Chi practitioner, when they're doing these things, a good Aikidoka, when they're making their Kung Fu, if it's real, it's not just hands moving around with like coordinated tips and stuff. It's the energy is moving in the body in a very specific way. And that's what gives rise to these movements. The movements are created because of the internal circulation of chi in the body. And it's very difficult to access that if you don't have some reference for it. And so what we do in the West is we make our bodies move the way we see the other person moving their body, but there's no internal, it's not coming from the right place. So this microcosmic orbit, right? This is a really important way to start to move from just cultivating chi in the body, which is necessary as a preliminary, to actually circulating it through the body in a way at this time that is geared towards your health, optimal health and longevity. And why we do this, how we do this, is we get all these meridian lines to have circulation of chi. Okay. Let me rearrange the furniture again. We'll sit down and see if you got any questions about this. Okay, so we've got a few minutes left here. Macrocosmic orbit. You can do microcosmic and then arms, microcosmic and then legs, microcosmic arms, microcosmic legs, or you can just work on the legs for a while, or you can just work on the legs, the arms for a while. But the salient feature is that by some means, you take the chi that you've stored in the hara and the danchen, you bring it around and you funnel it to these points here on the hand, and it's equivalent in the foot. And you hold it there. There are other points of significance. This one is called the Da Ling. This is more for distributing the chi. We'll talk about that later, but general for health, this point. Okay, you bring it here and you hold it. And it's like the one point of the hand. Like this is the one point of the hara. This is the one point of the hand. And there's a one point of the foot. And there's a one point of the brain. Okay. And when you get acclimated to bringing the chi to these points, you can't really mess it up, honestly. If you're concentrating and feeling into these points, the chi will respond to you. Your body's designed to do this. Your body's doing this kind of anyway. We're just usually not aware of it. So you don't, for example, concentrate up here on the tip of your third finger. You don't have it be fuzzy. It's a very specific point. It's like a diamond point or a candle flame. It's about the size of your thumbprint at best, or your pinky print at least. There, right? And you hold it there and you breathe in and out of it a few times, just concentrating on those points, and it acts like a magnet. It draws all the chi to those points, and then you bring it around again. Same thing with the feet. Now, some teachers that I respect a lot will say, well, what you want to do here with the arms is don't circulate it. You just bring it out to the palms and hold it there, and then start over from the base of the belly and bring it around. and wind it around again and just hold it. And they would have you keep concentrating on the palms the whole time. And the theory, well, not the theory, their experience is that students have an easier time connecting if they just keep concentrated on the palms. I don't know. I think you can do it. I think you can circulate along and it's fine. But if you want to play with that as an option, you're certainly welcome to do it. Okay, so anything that isn't clear about this, or questions or comments on what you've felt of it so far even? Shokai, thank you.
So we have like 3 questions.
Oh, that's good. That's very helpful, actually. Thank you. Well, of course, it depends
So-
on the quality of your question now, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, it does. So my hands feel like they're burning. Is that normal?
Yeah, good lady. That's good. That's a good sign. Yeah.
But my feet don't.
Well, you would like them to. You would like to, when you concentrate, particularly these heavy points, but if you concentrate even just generally on the palms, what you will find with more experience is you are able to measurably increase the body heat there. Okay, like it's like if you get embarrassed or you get angry and the blood rushes to your head and you get red up here. It's less aggressive than that, but it's similar to that. If you concentrate here in the hands, if it's healthy, it'll circulate through and it will increase the temperature. Not massively, but yeah. The legs now, I got to tell you, the legs are the seat of health. Your health is in your legs, okay? You want strong legs and you want that key to be able to circulate in those legs. It has everything to do with longevity and health, okay? In fact, if you can't hold, if you do, I don't know, I don't want to get into it too much, but when you do the Dr. Lu's second movement, the shooting of the bow, if you get into a nice horse stance and hold it there, that's good for you, okay? You don't want to be too aggressive, but over time, you want to increase the depth of your horse stance and the time you can spend there comfortably, okay? Because what that does is that puts a little tension on the system. And if you hold a horse stance like that, there's other postures we'll get into, but if you hold a horse stance and keep sending your chi down, your chi will break through barriers and knots and insufficiencies of circulatory capacity. And you will literally make the water go through the dam, which is what you want, okay? It will end up to be the case that your feet will also become warmer, okay? Question 1. Question 2?
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So when you're in horse stance, you're like impeding the chi flow, right?
Say it
Or
again. I was
When
distracted.
you're in horse stance, it seems like you're impeding the chi flow through the legs.
Incorrect. No,
Incorrect.
it would not be. When you're in lotus, you're impeding the chi flow in your legs, okay? when you wrap up like a pretzel, that's the purpose of it, okay? From a Neigong Qigong point of view. You're trying to shut off the lower meridian so your chi doesn't leak out. You're conserving it and bringing it up through the spine and doing this kind of stuff, okay? When you make a horse stance, it's not trying to make the chi stagnant. It's trying to get you to be rooted. So, oh man. Making furniture again, Shokai. I want an extra furniture mover fee for today's class, but okay. So you go here. If you hold a horse stance, even a low one, okay, the purpose is not to shut off the chi, it's to be rooted. So if you're doing this right, I mean, if your back is out, it's not going to be good. But if you're oriented correctly, what you want to do is to have the rootedness of your body sink and go right through those legs and flow beautifully right through the bones, all the way into the floor from your feet. Okay. And you can get wider with it. I got, jeans and socks on hardwood floor, so I don't want to get too far out here, but you can go really wide and you can hold it and do 5 gates of breathing like this. You just draw in through the legs and the bottoms of the feet into the 1 point, and then out, send it. And what you do, if you do this, the strength of your legs will increase considerably. A lot sooner than you might think. And it's good for you, okay? All right, so it's not trying to shut off the circulation with the legs.
My other question was, is it just trying to do the breathing on the macrocosmic was really hard? Like it's one breath all the way up and then one breath all the way down.
Yeah, and you want to, it's a lot harder when I'm narrating it. Honestly, it kind of fucks it all up when I have to talk about it. Really, it goes very quick. It can go that quick. So if I go like this, I can breathe it. I can even just sit here and breathe it from my tailbone, top of the head, down, up, down through the legs. Breathing at the legs, 1, 2, 3, up the legs, up the spine, top of the head, down. You can go really quickly. In fact, in Aikido, when Uke grabs me, right, I can immediately breathe the chi in and cycle it around and send it over them like really fast. So it doesn't have to be as slow as it is when I have to talk it through. Does that make sense? It can move at the speed of your mind. But to learn it, I got to narrate it, and that slows everything down. And if you try too fast, too quick, it's also difficult to contact it. Was there a third question, Shokai? Is that it?
I've forgotten
it. All right, Mark.
I'm a little unclear with the horse stance. Is that something we could do while we're sending the chi down through the legs, and afterwards exercise like the twisting that we were doing?
Yeah, it's a little bit out of the sequence of the class. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of where we are in the practice, you can do the leg macrocosmic orbit just in your basic standing posture, right? And this is best. When you're trying to figure this out, basically you want to make only one variable. If you're trying to do a new thing, you want everything else to be easy, and you have the one variable you can focus on. If you try to add 2 variables at once, already it's too much. And this is a great mistake in learning. People do all the time. They try to take on 7 new variables at the same time, and you either numb out and think you're incapable, or you give up, or you get dull because you get distracted. Your mind can't keep track of that much, and you start thinking about stupid shit, and your body just going on autopilot. Either way, it's off the rails, okay? What you want is one simple thing that is easy, that you can connect to, that's you have less experience with than you would like. And in this way, you can actually build an astonishing intimacy with these things. Okay, so anyway, that's a long way of saying don't do the horse stance now. but if you notice in the 8 brocade, which I will be introducing, that's the basis of the second posture, right? So what you find in those moving forms, there's a lot packed in there. And one of the things that's packed in there is that horse stance. There are other practices I really am fond of. One's called Golden Bell, where you hold your arms like this. It's just great. There's so many delicious things. It's really wonderful. But they all depend on this. And this is the stuff that it's difficult to get insight into, because this is the internal part. You can see the external forms all over the place, and they're interesting. But if you don't know the internal stuff, they don't help you much. So anyway, yeah, I wouldn't really right now focus on the horse stance unless it appeals to you. If you find that your circulation is poor, or you're concerned, if you have some intuitive feeling that you want to strengthen your legs, that's an easy way to do it. That you can just throughout the day just go into horse stance. Huh? Yeah. I'm hearing an echo voice. There we are. Yeah, so that's so anyway, and the other thing you can do is just do a body weight squat. You know, I mean, if you, ah, okay, I'm just gonna do it again. Now, this is not necessarily a Qigong thing, but I'm gonna take my socks off so I don't fall on my duff here. Although that could be entertaining. Okay, so, you know, in terms of general leg health, which is important, you can just stand, okay, and then just sit. And just, you know, your feet are at a comfortable angle to the sides. And, you know, you just want to get to where you can sit down and just get comfortable here. You know, sit there and get comfortable and wait. Hold it and breathe through the legs. You can go down, get comfortable, and just get to some place and stand there for a little bit, wait. You know, if you feel tremors and stuff like that, then, you know, let go and come back up. But ultimately what you want to be able to do is to get down here all the way. So my elbows are on the inside of my knees, and I'm at a full squat, like a lot lower. My pelvis is a lot lower than my knees, and be able to hold that and breathe through it and then come back up. And ideally, very, very, very gradual. If you can't do that, that's just a good physical health thing to do as an exercise. And you do that while you're waiting for your coffee to brew or what have you. You know what I mean? That's just kind of a muscle thing. I'm curious how many people right now think you could get down and just hold a squat like that. It's a good marker of vitality. It's a really good marker. It's a good thing to kind of be aware of. Okay. All right. So yeah, a bonus. A bonus exercise. Body weight squats. Notice I'm not trying to be Olympian about it, or it's not like jumping jacks where you do them really quickly. Just hold and breathe through. And then go a little deeper and breathe through it. And be very gradual and very gentle. But what you'll find is easy, the way a spring chute very gradually opens up, your legs will get strong, a lot stronger than you think. And if you do this grand circulation down there, the chi will start to circulate through there. It's good stuff. Any other questions on this much? So on, yeah.
When you're breathing through the center point in your hand or the bottom of your foot, are we doing contractive breathing or expansive breathing?
You can do either, but the point when you're doing macrocosmic orbit is you want to hold the point there. You don't breathe in and out of it. Like when we're doing pulsing or something, that's fine. You want to hold it there and breathe to it. And again, what it's doing is it's like at the terminal point in the subway, it's making sure the train goes all the way through to the terminal point. And you hold it there for 3, 5, 7 breaths, what have you. And then you bring it back in. Okay. When I do 5 gates breathing, I'm drawing in through those points and then back out from them. And I'm more interactive with my environment when I do that. So I'm breathing in from the environment through these points and then sending back out to the environment through those points outside. Okay. This particular practice, I'm cycling the chi within my own structure. So I'm coming either over the top to here, or from the sides to here, or directly through the whole arm itself to here, and you hold it at that point. And the purpose is you draw everything out. It's like the sediment comes to the bottom, and then you cycle through.
Yeah.
It's a very good thing to think about. You know, there's some chi where you're buffing up against the external, the guardian chi, and there's some chi where you're taking in chi from the environment and exchanging with it. And when you do that, you want to make sure you're in a healthy environment. You don't want to, it's funny, they'll call it evil chi in the classics, in the literature, but you know, you want to be sensitive. You know, if you're in a space where you get weird vibes, you don't want to be bringing all that into you, right? There's sometimes when guardian chi is appropriate, and there's sometimes when it's a great time to exchange with the environment. And one thing I have to say is that nature is a little off kilt right now. Like just the natural order of things is a little bit off. And you have to compensate for that. You know, we're a part of nature. We're connected to nature. We are nature. And as the environment goes a little funny, so does our environment. I guess that's what I'd want to say. So I think it's all the more important to learn how to preserve and nourish your vital energy as the environment. I hope I'm wrong, but it seems to me that we're heading in a difficult path, and probably things will get a little weirder before they get a little less weird, maybe a lot weirder. And so very important that you know how to maintain your health and be grounded. All right. Anybody that I haven't interacted with today have anything they'd like to chime in about or interact around? Not that you have to. All right, going once, going twice. All right. Okay, everybody. So that gives us our macrocosmic orbit. Okay, so don't worry about doing it right. Just play with it. And you got the concept, right? I'm sure that if you do a YouTube search around microcosmic orbit, there's a bunch of different people talking about it, maybe better than I do. There's a few I've seen computer graphic things. Don't be surprised if you see different ones and go, which one's right? They're all right. They're all fine. Just don't worry about it too much. Just go ahead and check it out. I think in this video, you've got enough content to go ahead and get started with it. And as I said before, don't worry about like sets and reps and how much and all this. Just enjoy it. You know, do it as it occurs to you. Do it as much as it feels nourishing to you, and then you're done. Trust your body. You know, if you're hungry for something, trust that your body wants some of that. If you're in tune with your body, you can trust it. Okay, so this is part of how we learn how to do this. So let's dedicate the merit. So for all of those, we dedicate the merit of our class today to all those who are stagnant in any way, for those that do not have good circulation. If they're in a place where the energy is stuck and not flowing, may they find some relief from this, and may they in some way participate in the grand circulation that we're all working on together. May it be so. All right, y'all. Thanks so much. Great job. Stay with it, and we'll see you next week.